anybody who didn't attend those sessions, you'll also have opportunity to kind of learn some of the things that we covered in the first session. Okay? All right. So today we'll cover session 3, which is Explore Your Future, Part 1. I'll answer any questions that you all might have, and then we'll pass it over to Catherine Bury, and she'll present the Strong Mentors Get Great Results. Okay? So, session 3. This session is designed to help students think about good work habits, making good choices, and their future. Students will have the opportunity to meet one-on-one with a mentor to discuss the results of their career key profile and narrow their career exploration. So, in session 2, you all probably talked a little bit about the career keys. So, in this session, you actually have the opportunity to kind of expand on that and kind of dive in a little bit more on the results from that assessment that they took in Naviance. Right. The spotlights of this session will be responsible decision making, diversity of career paths, and the one-on-one advising. All right. By the conclusion of this session, students will become more familiar with important work habits and qualities of effective employees, know why and how to make good choices, and also have a more concrete idea of what they want for their future. And as always, there is some pre-work that you'd like to do before your session. So review your Session 3 curriculum guide, review the 6 career personality types in the Hollis Code, participate in a conversation via email or over the phone with your mentor partners, review the Career View questions. So we have that there because these questions actually can be dated in a way. You'll see with the next couple of slides. So if you feel free to kind of update them if you want to, okay? And review the rules for the game of life. Think through the logistics of the career advising, how you guys would do it. So based on whether you have 2 mentors or 3 mentors working with your group, you might want to work it differently. So this here is an overview of what Session 3 will look like. You'll kick it off with the opening, giving an introduction and kind of covering, have the students kind of recap some of the things they did in Session 2. And then you'll go right into the icebreaker, the True2U career view. Then the next activity, making good choices, take a break, and then go into reviewing careers and links to high school. And then activity 3D and 3E kind of coincide with each other. And you'll kind of be doing 3 different activities simultaneously. And I'll show you about that a little later. All right? And then you'll end with a reflection and a debrief. So the True2U career view. So you'll break your groups up into 2 teams. There's a total of 6 rounds and 6 questions. For each question, you'll choose a captain from each team. And you'll want to rotate those people out as the next questions come up. You'll want to read your questions first, and then once those questions are completed, whoever raises their hand first, you'll let them answer the question, and then at that point they have an opportunity to choose to play or pass. So if they play, they have to get all of the remaining questions correct. If they get 3 strikes, then the other team has an opportunity to steal. Okay?
What's a strike?
Getting the answer incorrect. Yeah, so.
And all the points go to the other team?
Yes, so if the other team has the opportunity to steal, they would receive the points for that particular question, all of the points for that question. All right. And if the other team that is given the opportunity to steal gets the points incorrectly, then the original team gets all of the points. Okay? So here are examples of some of the questions in the career cluster view. All right. So name one of the top 3 work habits that help make LeBron James a great basketball player. So I'm sure these are very great answers, and everyone could probably think of a couple of other answers for this question. So if these don't do it for you and the students kind of get some other answers, or you think of some other answers ahead of time, feel free to incorporate those ahead of time, okay? And the same for top 3 movies that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, has played in. Game Plan, I have never even seen that movie, so I'm
It
sure.
was funny. It was really nice.
I'm pretty sure many of the students haven't seen it. It probably came out in 2000, and they were just born or something. So, feel free to, throw in any other movies that The Rock has played in since that time, okay? Okay, so the next activity, making good choices. This activity you kind of could break down in 2 different ways. So we can either have your groups act out the scenarios or just discuss them in small groups. So me personally, I like to have my groups act them out because it just keeps the students more engaged throughout the session, okay? So you break your groups up and you'll provide a scenario for each group. So all 3 groups will have a different scenario, okay? And they have to read through the scenario and then think about the choice or decision they'll make with the information that they have. And based on that information, we'll think about the resulting consequences, whether they're positive or negative after the fact, okay?
Where do they read the scenario?
So this is all in their tracker as well. So you'll have it in your curriculum guide and they'll have them in their tracker, okay?
What page? 3.10.
So at the conclusion of this activity, we want the students to know what makes a decision good, and then also think about steps that it takes in order to make the decision.
If the students are going to read it, it should be in the tracker, unless I print it out for them.
So it's in the tracker.
I didn't see it. Can you give me the page number?
Don't we get little cards in our packets?
Oh, it's in the curriculum guide.
Don't we get little
Here,
cards
we can't
in
read
our
it. It's in the big one.
packets?
It says, curriculum guide.
Okay.
These here.
Look at them.
So you'll have these scenario cards.
Sensitive.
Yeah, but they should also be in the tracker. So the scenario cards give you prompts for each of those scenarios, okay? All right. All right, so if everyone can just take a second to read the scenario here and then think about what they would do. Don't look in the curriculum guide for the answers either. Is everyone finished? All right. What would you guys do about Charles? Anybody got any answers? Any suggestions?
I have a suggestion. Maybe he can reach out to Charles and see if he can take the homework to Charles.
Okay. Cool. All right. So these are the answers that we have already pre-mapped out. So one is Anthony tells the teacher about his concerns and asks for help. So the teacher then talks to Charles and his mother and finds a way for Charles to continue with his studies and get him to the help that he needs. The other thing is for Anthony to tell his mother and ask that she call Charles's mother. Charles's mother appreciates the call, but nothing changes. Anthony does nothing pretty much just keeping it to himself and hopes for the best. Charles drops out of school, Anthony loses touch with him. And then the last option is Anthony tries to help Charles deal with his family situation. As a result, Charles still doesn't attend school, and Anthony starts to feel overwhelmed, kind of diving in too deep with his life. So here you can also think of other alternative options or choices that can be made and results. So I'm sure students will probably also think of different things. So you can kind of play with that a little bit. At the end of this activity, you want to share with the students the tips for understanding choices, which is on page 3.13 of your curriculum guide. This here is just a Making Good Decisions poster. You'll post that in the classroom, and they'll kind of use this as a template for, how to come up with good decisions overall. So reviewing careers and links to high school. Okay. So for this activity, you'll need the career cluster posters from session 2. Those posters were the ones that they gave you a career cluster, and then at the bottom it was like different adjectives and also a definition of what that cluster does. So you want to post those around the classroom. The career clusters worksheet, which was started in the previous session, and also the Hot Careers in Cleveland worksheet. So these tools will be used for students to kind of get an idea of what they're interested in, but also have the opportunity to see what careers are needed in the future and are projected to be great careers in Cleveland, okay? And then they also can use this information to match it along with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District's high school career cluster poster, which I have here. This gives a breakdown of all of the career clusters, the CMSD, and the high schools that provide particular pathways for those career clusters. All right. So you want to set up the career cluster posters around the classroom, go through each career cluster, and have students raise their hands and kind of choose which clusters they're interested in. And then from there, choose a student for each selected group to read that poster and tell you about what that career industry is. Also have the students refer back to the Hot Careers in Cleveland worksheet in their track. Right. So this here is a list of those careers. I took just a few of the career focuses in high schools, and just to give you an example, since you can't see the full poster. Right. Okay. So as I stated, the career advising portion will kind of take up a lot of time in most groups. So if you're a 2-mentor group, it's probably going to be a little bit more taxing on your group because you got to kind of monitor everything else that's going on and do the one-on-one advising. If you're a 3-team group, then it'll be a little bit easier because 2 individuals can do the one-on-ones while someone else kind of looks over everything. But it'll kind of be interchanging. Okay. So they'll kick this portion of activities off with a letter to their future self. So there's a prompt inside of the True2U tracker, and they'll just kind of fill in the things that they want to say to their self. Once they complete that, most students should all complete around the same time, but if they don't, feel free to allow people to work on them at their speed. and then you can begin the one-on-one career advising until they're finished with those, and kind of just keep on swapping in kids as they go. If everyone finishes at the same time, then at this portion of the day, you also can start doing the game of life, which we will cover next. Okay. And the career advising template is on page 3.37. That'll give you an idea of some of the things that you'll talk to the students about. So, on your tables, you should have the high school choice guides, which you would have also received as a November training session. So, you should have those, but if you don't have those already, these will also be at the school waiting for you. And I also provided the high school showcase booklet. Now, this was last year's book, but the updated book will also be at the school waiting for you, so we don't currently have those. But the high school showcase booklet kind of gives you a profile of each school, and it also gives you a breakdown of all of the kind of extracurriculars and programs that they have, and contacts and things like that. So students can kind of see what each high school offers and see if that's a choice that they would like to add to their list. So this is an example of the letter to the future self template. This is the first half of the template. All right. Like I said, they'll just go through this and kind of have an opportunity to just fill things in as they see fit. So it shouldn't take too much time to get this completed.
Question.
Who was that? Yes, ma'am?
Do we show the students these things in the center of the table at the different high schools?
Yes, so you'll have a box of those at your school. Yeah, so you'll be able to share those with the students.
Do they keep them or take them home, or do we put them back in the...
They can keep them.
They can keep them.
Yes.
So this is kind of a take-home activity because it's a lot to read in the time that we have.
Well, so you're going to be basically introducing them, many of them, to the idea of the high school choice selection process and thinking about what all of these different schools offer. So these books are just kind of different resources. So yeah, they can take them and they want to take them home to their parents and allow their parents to look at them and see what schools they're thinking about and where they're located and kind of start thinking about that whole thing.
Thank you, that makes sense.
And just remember, students aren't supposed to take these trackers with them at the end of the year. All right, so make sure that you reinforce for them to be recording all of their results and stuff in there because we want them to actually be useful for them once they take them with them. So here are the 6 howling codes. You'll want to just review these again before the session. Like I said, this is session 2 stuff. So you should have all of these results via an email with a Dropbox link for your school.
But if you haven't received those,
Who was that?
okay.
You said you didn't
What if
receive
you
one?
haven't received the Dropbox for everybody in the school?
Have you been assigned to a school already?
Yes, I have been assigned. But I haven't received an email with the Dropbox that will tell me what the students,
Okay, talk to me after this. It might be in your spam, but if not, we can send it over to you. Okay. All right. So also you can jot this down as well. So a lot of the schools have videos for their schools, kind of giving a presentation on their schools, so you can share this with the students for that first one. And the True CMSD portal is currently not open. I believe it opens later this month. But that's the actual portal that them and their parents are going to and select the school.
Do we share that long HTTP?
You can. It's not mandatory, but it's just another resource.
they get it if we don't share it?
You can share it if you like, but it's not mandatory.
Julie, can you email that out to the members? Julie?
Yes, I can do that.
At what point do the students get this information and start making choices?
So True2U is just a vehicle to help with this process. This is something that CMSD has also already introduced and working on. So don't feel like you're the sole provider of this information. But for some students, it might be the first time that they've heard of it. But for others, they've probably heard of it already. So you're just another resource for them and somebody who's helping them through this process.
Can you go back?
Can we see the video?
I actually didn't pull out any particular video. This link just goes straight to the page. So there's a list of high schools with videos on this page.
So I got a question. Okay, so when you get the recommending of schools or going over what schools are interested, what about busing and things like that? So based upon where they live, I mean, I'm not that good with maps and things like that, so that's one of my to be desired.
So CMSD does provide public transportation buses. So the RTA, they do get bus tickets for the RTA. So that's something that they would have to think about if they're choosing a school that's out of their immediate area, if they don't have transportation, if they don't have a parent that could take them. But they would have that option, but as far as like a school bus, they don't have those.
So they use RTA.
Yes.
Also, can I make a point also?
Yes,
When
sir.
when the kids are playing Game of Life and you're one-on-one with the kids, that's when you're gonna be talking about the school choice. That's where you really zero in and focus on what area they're interested in and what schools are gonna fit that criteria. So you're gonna need in front of you that cross-sectional guide for the personality type and all that. So that's the critical point, one-on-one, while they're all playing Game of Life.
What's the cross-sectional guide?
The one that shows the high schools related to the personality types.
Is that in one of these folders?
That's one of the posters. Yeah, one of the posters that's got that on.
One of the posters that
In the class period.
So you'll have this poster,
Right,
which breaks down
right, that's the one.
yeah.
each high school like career cluster.
You're
You have this
looking at
book.
that quite often.
You also have the other high school choice.
And you can also lead through this thing too. That's what I ended up doing last year. But that's a critical time when you're one-on-one with the student, and you want them to say, oh yeah, okay, I would like to go to the Cleveland School or executive. That way it's in their head, and they can start talking to their parents about it and exploring the mass transit and how far away from their home it is and all that.
So what did you do if they said they didn't know?
Now, if they don't know,
Mentoring
at this
one-on-one
point,
with a student, to have the book available to give to the student as part of that mentoring, so that the student can take it home and share that with their parents.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the portion of the activity breakdown. The one-on-one is when you will talk about the high schools, and you also talk about the careers that they previously felt that they were interested in and wanted to kind of research and dive into more.
Right.
And so this is that point in time when you'll have the opportunity to do that.
And my question was, to him, what happens if they say they don't
still
know?
don't know at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
In the past, what we've done is have them think about 3 choices.
3?
Try to
Okay.
narrow it down to 3 for them to think about.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of them will say they've already made up their mind for what school they're going to. They don't need to have a session to run into that also.
And some also default to the local schools, so you
Right.
still make them think about if they default to the local school, you're gonna match what they actually are interested in. So,
Yeah.
that even though it's close, if you're not matching their interest, you still want to have other options.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're kind of breaking that thinking of just choosing schools that are local.
Right.
So you really want them to be intentional about their choices and make choices based on their interests. So you want to, show them these guys, show them the different resources, and let them know what they have, what their options are. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
In terms of pacing, like, what's
to spend one-on-one with students, and other ones like Holland Down?
About 10 minutes
Oh, it's
for each
10
student.
minutes?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's 100 minutes.
Yeah, that works out.
We have 10 students, that's an hour and a half.
So is it only 2 of you?
Yep.
Well, one's with the
We have
paying
20
one, and the other one is doing the mentoring.
So if you're a 2-person group, you'll want to still, both of you kind of do the one-on-ones and just keep an eye on what's going on, you know, give the kids the directions and kind of empower them and let them do their thing. All right?
This is the nub of this meeting. So if you need to spend the time and sacrifice the time for some of the other things, do so. This is the core of this meeting, is the one-on-ones. Absolutely.
To that point, so, we've been a little short-handed, so there's a good chance we would just be one mentor with 14 or 15 kids. So how would you approach that?
So if it's only one mentor, I would let us know ahead of time if you think that's going to be the case, and we'll try to get somebody out there to do that.
So just assume that doesn't work either.
I mean, there's probably no way that you could get everybody,
Right.
you know, through
Yeah,
if it's only one person.
Should I cut it to 5 or 10 and do the next one?
I would say keep it with around 7 to 10 minutes.
Duration is just.
Yeah, and then
Cut everything else out.
yeah, and if it kind of goes into the next session, that's okay. But if you kind of foresee that, if you already know that someone's going to be out, let us know. We'll get somebody over there to help out.
We'll have time in the next session to make up for people you might have missed in the first session. There is overlap time.
So for the game of life, so this will be going on simultaneously with the one-on-one session?
Someone had a question.
Yes, ma'am?
I don't understand how this is. So, we're pulling kids out one at a time and doing one-on-one 10 minutes. What is the rest of the group?
So that's what I'm going into. So, in a perfect world, everyone would have completed the letter to themselves already, and we'll be able to move on to the game of life. So once they start playing the game of life, you'll be pulling students out of the game, and as they're playing, you'll be talking to one student, the other mentors will be talking to another student, and kind of pulling students back and forth throughout that game.
So put a student in charge of the game? I mean, who's playing?
Yes, so you'll cover the instructions. You can give the instructions to the students as far as how to play the game. If you have 3 mentors, one of the mentors could oversee that, but a lot of us are only two men or women groups. So yeah, you'll kind of just have to allow them to run their own game. And as they play, you kind of can keep an eye on them, and also make sure that you have that opportunity to do the one-on-one.
They will not finish the game. They won't have time to finish it.
They won't finish the game, but most of the kids last year, it seemed like they knew the rules of the game,
Yeah.
so they'll run with it on their own, they played before.
So I just want to get through this quickly so Catherine will get up here. Each player. Each player gets 1 card, 1 token, 1 peg, and 200K. You'll split the cards up into 4 different decks and put them next to the board. You'll choose a reader for the group, or they can choose their own reader, who will kind of be the person over the instructions and making sure everyone is playing correctly. They'll also choose a banker and choose a path at the beginning of the game, whether they'll go to college or they'll start their career right out. Students will pop their peg into the card and place it at the start place and begin to play. The student at the end who has the most money, once everyone's retired, is the winner. Okay? Pretty cool game. Pretty simple. All right. Any last questions? Yes, sir.
So, one of the things, I don't know if anyone else had the same experience or not, but these kids don't remember their Holland codes. Maybe they have taken that test long back, but when they come to the session, they don't remember what was their Holland codes and all those things. Is there a way we can let them know beforehand so that they have?
Yeah, so you should, like I was saying, you should have an email
No, I have that email.
Okay, so
But-
you can print those results and share them with the students?
Don't they put it in their tracker? Did you do that?
You should have already had them recorded. So every time you have an activity where you're introducing some of the Navient stuff, you want to have them recorded on that first page.
Okay.
All right, but if you didn't, then you'll just have to remind them and have them recorded this session. All right? Okay. Thank you. Have